Hello and welcome back to Jimbo's PC Builds. Today I'm going to do another unboxing video. So recently I unboxed the Keychron M2, which is their relatively new, well actually pretty much brand new wireless mouse. It's more of a, what you would call a standard wireless mouse. It's not got the, you know, what you think of a gamer mouse, like some of the glorious mice where they have a lot of the chassis cut out and stuff like that, and like a honeycomb finish. So it was light, but it wasn't the lightest of mice. So with that in mind, today we're going to unbox the Keychron M1, which is another wireless mouse they've just released, but this time it's more of a gamer type. I don't know if you can see on the box there, you can see it's got the old honeycomb finish on it. So without further ado, let's get this open and have a look. So I like the M2, and I've actually been using the M2 for work. So I've been using it with my Mac. And fun fact, if you plug the M2 with its cord plugged into the Mac, it thinks it's a keyboard. And then if you try and use it and you move the mouse around, it goes up and down. Only when you unplug it and you enable Bluetooth does it actually pick it up as a mouse. So there you go, there's a fun fact for you. Alright, so let's get the M1 out. I'm quite looking forward to this because, as I mentioned, I'm using the M2 for work and I really enjoy it as a mouse. So we get manual. I went for a black one this time, whereas the M2 I went for a white one, white mouse. Comes with a nice braided cable, the same as the M2. It comes with a USB-C cable with an adapter to go to USB-A if needed. It also comes with an additional dongles. I think one of them is you've either got wireless for a wireless C dongle or a wireless A dongle. And then finally, we get the mouse itself. It feels very, very, very light indeed. Now, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to compare the weight of this to the M2 and also the glorious Model O wireless. So without further ado, let's get the scales out and check out the weight. So first of all, let's put on the M1. The M1 comes in at 78 grams. Let's put on the M2, which comes in at 80 grams. And then finally, the Model O wireless. So it's 1 gram lighter than the M1. Now keep in mind, I've still got the stickers on the feet because I haven't taken them off yet. So I would say pretty much they're about bang on the same weight. All right, so now I'm going to basically bring the camera in on the mat, and then we'll have a look at how the sound is compared to both the M2 and the Model D. All right, let's do that. So I've got all three mice in front of me. I'm going to start off with the M1. I'd say it's a pretty flat shape. I think it'd be good for both a claw and a standard grip. It's got good switches on either side, so you've got forward and back buttons, which you can configure on either side. The actual switches themselves for the right and left click. Are very light, they don't need a lot of pressure. The scroll wheel is very easy to move. And it's a good solid click, so you're not going to be very easily able to, if you're trying to scroll, you're not going to be constantly pressing it down all the time. As for how it moves, it glides really well. There is a little bit of friction, and keep in mind I've only just taken the stickers off this yet, so it's not been worn in any way, shape or form, but it does move rather well. In comparison to the M2 is a lot more bulbous. It's a lot fatter in the middle, and these are the right and left. It's only got buttons on one side, and the resistance on them is a lot greater, and the actual right and left click a pretty good button press, but I have to say that the buttons are a lot stiffer. As for the scroll wheel, it's a lot stiffer. You've got to put a lot more effort in to move it. The click, also, you've got to put a good chunk of effort. And if you've noticed, one of the other differences between the M1 and the M2 is you haven't got the control button on top. So everything is controlled underneath. Also, because you've got 3 buttons underneath on the M2 because it's a solid chassis, so you can control the likes of RGB, the speed, and your connection method. Whereas underneath, you've got one button for your which looks like you've got your connection settings, and then you've got, I think that's your speed setting underneath. I'm not sure how you're going to be able to control your RGB with this. I'll find out once I start using it. Now, if we compare both of those to the Model O wireless, the right and left click buttons are very similar to the M1. It's only got buttons on the side, so it's only got 2 buttons rather than 4 compared to the M1. The buttons on the side are quite light, and there's not a real big sound to them, easily pressed. It has got a button on top for controlling the likes of your RGB, etc., which the M1 doesn't. And glide-wise, it does move very, very, very smoothly. As for the scroll wheel, it's also very similar to the M1. It's quite light, and to press it down, it's actually quite easy to press it. Now, I've been using this mouse for quite some time, and quite often when I'm using the scroll wheel I find it clicking in because it's very, very light. So I would say for that, I'd say the M1 is probably a little bit better for that. Alright, but all 3 look really good. I'll now give you my final thoughts and conclusion. So now we've had a look at all 3 mice together and checked out the weight. What are my general thoughts and conclusions just off the obviously initial look at the M1 mouse? The switches are a lot lighter, they're a lot crisper than the M2. As a mouse, it's a lot flatter than the M2. The M2 was a lot more bulbous. So for the grip, I would say it's got a lot more possibilities in terms of standard or claw. You could probably utilize it more than you can with the M2. I would suggest to you that the M2 is definitely more of a work mouse than a gaming mouse. You could use it for gaming, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would definitely say I would use the M1 for gaming instead, because it's a much better gaming mouse. The shape is very similar to that of the Model O wireless, and the scroll wheel is a lot lighter. The switches are a lot crisper than the M2, and it very much is a really good competition for the Model O, which is my current gaming wireless. So yeah, based off my initial thoughts and conclusions, would I recommend this mouse? And keep in mind, I wasn't sent this mouse. I bought this myself for my own personal use. So would I recommend it? Yeah, I would. I think it's an excellent mouse. I don't think the price is necessarily too high. Right now you can only buy this directly from Keychron themselves. Last I looked, they weren't selling it on their Amazon store, and that same applies to their M2, so you have to buy it directly from them. But would I say it's a good mouse? Absolutely. It's very comparable to the Model O wireless. It's cheaper than the Model O wireless, and yeah, it's just a really good mouse. Alright, I hope you found that information useful. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for future content. I've got a build coming, a ROG build video coming. I'm also going to be adding more coolers to the Cooler League, so if you hit the bell icon, you'll be notified of when that content comes out. Please don't forget to toss a like on the video, and also don't forget to comment. And if you don't like the video, then please leave some feedback down below how we can improve both the content and the channel. And as always, take care.